The mainstream media's relentless coverage of global warming has led many to wonder if there's an ulterior motive behind the constant barrage of dire predictions and alarmist reports. It's becoming increasingly clear that the mainstream media's intentions are not entirely pure, and that their true goal is to control the narrative and shape public opinion on the issue. By examining the language and tactics used by the media, as well as the underlying interests and motivations of those involved, it becomes apparent that the mainstream media's coverage of global warming is, in fact, a form of propaganda designed to manipulate and influence the public. One of the primary ways in which the media exercises control over the narrative is through the use of emotive language and alarmist rhetoric. By employing words and phrases such as crisis, catastrophe, and tipping point, the media creates a sense of urgency and panic, which can be leveraged to sway public opinion and drive policy decisions. This type of language is not only misleading but also disingenuous, as it implies that the science is settled and that there's a consensus among experts, when, in fact, there is ongoing debate and discussion within the scientific community. By creating a false sense of consensus, the media is able to silence dissenting voices and marginalize those who question the prevailing narrative. Another tactic used by the media to control the narrative is the selective presentation of data and information. By cherry-picking studies and reports that support their predetermined conclusions, the media creates a biased and distorted view of the issue. This is particularly evident in the way that the media reports on climate models, which are often presented as authoritative and definitive, despite being inherently uncertain and subject to a wide range of variables and assumptions. By ignoring or downplaying the limitations and uncertainties of these models, the media creates a false sense of certainty, which can be used to justify radical policy interventions and lifestyle changes. The mainstream media's coverage of global warming is also driven by underlying interests and motivations, particularly those related to politics and economics. Many of the media outlets that are most vocal on the issue have close ties to governments, corporations, and other organizations that stand to gain from the implementation of climate policies and the creation of a low-carbon economy. For example, many of the major media outlets have received funding from organizations such as the Rockefeller Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and the European Union, all of which have a vested interest in promoting the climate agenda. Similarly, many of the journalists and commentators who write about global warming have ties to activist groups, think tanks, and other organizations that are actively promoting the climate narrative. Furthermore, the media's coverage of global warming is often used to justify increased government control and regulation, as well as the implementation of radical policies such as carbon pricing, cap-and-trade, and renewable energy mandates. By creating a sense of crisis and urgency, the media provides a pretext for governments to impose draconian measures on their citizens, which can have far-reaching consequences for individual freedoms, economic prosperity, and social cohesion. This is particularly evident in the way that the media reports on the supposed need for climate action, which is often framed as a moral imperative, rather than a matter of informed debate and discussion. In conclusion, the mainstream media's coverage of global warming is a form of propaganda designed to control the narrative and shape public opinion. By using emotive language, selective presentation of data, and underlying interests and motivations, the media creates a biased and distorted view of the issue, which can be used to justify radical policy interventions and lifestyle changes. It's essential that the public is aware of these tactics and approaches the issue with a critical and nuanced perspective, recognizing that the science is complex, the debate is ongoing, and the solutions are not as straightforward as the media often suggests. By promoting a more informed and balanced discussion, we can create a more sustainable and equitable future, one that is grounded in reason, evidence, and democratic principles, rather than hysteria, propaganda, and manipulation.